Hello and welcome to season 4, episode 21 of Dualistic Unity. I am not convinced that the limitations I perceive are as real as I think they are. I feel like we come up with a lot of excuses to keep our true potential at bay. And I'm not really settling upon anything anymore. There's a lot showing me that I may be more of what I see than I think. So I'm excited to explore that this episode.
I'm just appreciative more and more. I really find it just incredible how many people or variations of myself have come together in this community and just maintain connections with one another. They express themselves, they ask questions, they go back and forth about things, they dare to disagree, knowing that by and large, everybody has the same intention, which is to grow and not to be judged, and therefore not to judge. It's incredible. Each and every day that I quote unquote go to work, I am so very happy to do so. I'm always inspired by the people that we talk to. I'm always inspired by the things we talk about. I'm constantly feeling like I'm just whole and complete in every ripple that I make, regardless of what might be happening in my life. And it's encouraging when I hear other people having such moments of success in terms of getting out of their own way, feeling a little bit more free, feeling like they can express themselves. I'm blown away by the people who are volunteering to help us by clipping up episodes or spreading the word on social media. All of these things just amaze me because this conversation, the insights that we're going through, the recognition that there is another way to experience reality, to perceive reality, to see beyond perception as reality, that there is, in fact, a whole discussion to be had here, has been something that I've just found to be a priority in my own life for a very long time. And so I love the fact that other people are finding it as entertaining and as interesting as I do. And I'm really, really excited to be able to share this with you and everyone else. So that's all I wanted to say for this 21st episode of season 4. We've come so far. I am so very excited about whatever's coming next.
Oh yeah, season 4 finale, baby. That's crazy. I was just it was hitting me before we started recording just how much has happened. Like we're done 4 seasons after this one. That's pretty incredible. Off of something that started with just, hey, you want to start a podcast? Sure. After one conversation, after interacting with each other on a computer for about an hour. And yeah, now here we are. Community, all of you, retreats, groups, lots of lots and lots of ambitions. Book on the way. Holy shit. It's kind of crazy thinking to that. And even now, because I'm in San Diego, and this is a place that I visited a bunch with a ex-girlfriend who lived here about 2 years ago. And it was spent a lot of time here, kind of the months leading up to recognizing that I'm not what I think. And so it's kind of that feeling that I've talked about I got when I went back to my college campus. It was like a new, fully new experience. Like I was existing in another lifetime. And so that's how it's felt around here because I spent a lot of time in the area that my Airbnb is without really noticing it until I've been walking around like, holy shit, I've been there. Oh man, I've been there. But it was such a different mentality that it's like it was a completely different lifetime. And so, yeah, whether it's that or being in a familiar spot that seems simultaneously unfamiliar, getting hit with some deeper insights today. And yeah, but it's been quite the ride. So it's been a lot of fun. I appreciate everyone for joining us on this and being dualistic unity in your own life.
Because otherwise, none of this would matter at all. I think that's really something I'd like to cover very quickly based on a conversation I had with one of the members of our community recently, because this has been such a journey from scratching the surface all the way through our first season and our second season, into getting more guests, and then eventually into going full time in season 4. Throughout that entire journey and all of the conversations, and more importantly, all of the groups that we have had throughout that entire journey, and all of the one-on-one interactions that we've had with the people in our community, and all of that, there's been a journey. And in that journey, you can get as much as you want out of it by simply recognizing that you're a part of it, because we're all a part of it. We're all one. There's no division whatsoever. And the more you recognize that, the more you really start to get into whatever the hell is happening here with dualistic unity. And I just want to mention, it's not dualistic unity doing it. It's you. You really can get to a point where the insights are coming at such a rate that you almost start to feel as though it's dualistic unity that's spawning them. Like, oh, I gotta stop listening to dualistic unity. This is getting a little intense. And then you go back to your day and you're still having insights based on everything that's happening and every conversation that you're having, because it was never about what dualistic unity is doing. I'm getting one thing out of this conversation. Andrew's getting something else out of this conversation based on how much we are willing to get out of this conversation. But when I'm listening to Andrew, it would be generous for me to say that I am catching everything that he is saying, because sometimes when he is saying something insightful, my mind will try to process that and I'll miss a whole sentence. And it's not because he's not saying something that I could learn from. It's because, frankly, I'm busy learning. And so I'm taking what I can from the conversation. But when I go back and I edit this video later and I hear that second sentence that I didn't catch the first time because I was processing, it spawns a whole new process, not because of what Andrew is saying, but because of what I want to get out of it. So the episode changes for me in each iteration of my experience of it, because I'm changing. So it's not the episode doing the work. You can listen to these episodes and not get anything out of it. In fact, you could listen to these episodes and actually get the exact opposite insight that we're trying to communicate, because it's not about us. There is nothing we can say or do that is triggering the insight that you are experiencing. It really is you, which means that you can walk away from dualistic unity. You can never listen to this podcast again. And it wouldn't matter, because everything you got out of this podcast was what you were willing to get out of this podcast. You'll get it out of anything else if you're willing. And obviously you are.
Oh man, the amount of times that I've gone back to listen to or clip up an old episode and hearing stuff that we were talking about like that week, thinking that the week that I was currently in was the first time that I had ever had that insight. And then I go back and literally listen to myself say it, or listen to you say it, and it looks like I'm following along. Like the number of times that that happens is unbelievable, because I'm hearing it. You can hear the things, and people have expressed this as well in some of our groups, how it's just hitting them what this all means, because they've been caught in the concept of it. They've been caught in an idea of it, creating an idea of what it is this conversation is, and the application, the experience of what we're pointing to, what we're talking about, is not the same as any idea that you hold on to. Like, it's never what you think is literally never what you think. You can't even think about this adequately and get it or know it. It's not even something that you can get. It's what you are. You getting it is kind of distorting it in a way. And so it's exciting though, because it means that everything's always new and fresh, because you're always new and fresh. Your perspective is always new and fresh. We were talking a little bit this morning on our Raw episode about how people get into their loops and their habits, and they think that nothing ever changes about their life, because yeah, sure, maybe it looks the same, but each and every experience, each and every day is entirely different, no matter how similar it feels, because you've changed, and the perspective from which you come from and are listening completely changes. And I am very much a great example of that, because You can go back to the early seasons, and we're not saying things that are that different than what we're saying now, if at all. If anything, we covered pretty much the extent of what we talk about for the most part through season 1 and 2. And then beyond that, it's like deepening into it, expanding on it, seeing it from different perspectives, sharing things in different ways. But it comes back to the same recognition over and over and over. You're not what you think. You're whole and complete as you are. There's nothing you have to become. There's no way to become anything else. There's no way to know, no way to know what's to come or even what is here and now. But it's those same sort of insights, just seeing them from different points of view because they hit differently. And today I'll pass it back to Ray, but definitely that one, the lack of division, is making me very curious right now, just how much our story, our idea, even that, okay, yeah, we're not divided, but there's still me. Like there's still, and it's like, yeah, but it's not your idea. So even the body, I don't know, making me curious just about what potential really means.
Now that's interesting because I've been having this conversation with myself for a long time. So when we started season one, it was very much, okay, this is great. Let's get into this because I really love this conversation. And over the course of these 4 seasons, I have learned quite a bit, but the majority of what I've learned has come from the community itself, has come from the interactions with everyone, and from seeing the growth of this and why it's growing. Because I know from our many conversations and my background in marketing and sales that this is not growing as a result of us being savvy marketers. The community is not growing as a result of some giant advertising campaign. It is growing because the content itself is valuable to people. And for me, I find that to be really interesting because it coincides with my own journey into recognizing that I am not what I think and that what remains is what is. And so I find it really interesting that if you look back at my video from 2005, I'm talking about the fact that regardless if I'm in the bush or I'm surrounded by people, I am still alone. In my experience of subjectivity, in my experience of existence, it is only me. And when I made that video, I was really thinking about Ray. Whether I wanted to admit it or not, I still identified with the body. I was still identified with the idea. I was still identified with the subjective me, which is the cornerstone of my reality, but it's also the cornerstone of your reality. And so over time, what I've recognized is that, as I said to you, there's no difference between recognizing that it's all you or not, except in how you experience it. And so I've reconciled that more and more over the years, realizing that it's always just been me. And that's okay. It doesn't change the experience. It just changes how I perceive and experience whatever this is. And so I find it interesting that the perspective of isolation hasn't changed, but the growth of this conversation and the growth of the community has made me more and more aware of exactly how much I am. Because while the journey has always been letting go of my idea of myself, it never dawned on me that that means recognizing the connection with the rest of myself. Isolation has just changed tone. There's just so much more of me.
And that's it. So this is kind of what I wanted to get into, is that perspective of me, being, for me, Andrew, for you, Ray, and through letting go of that, even having any semblance of truth and everything that comes with that, like where that goes isn't anywhere physically, sort of, but we only have the perspective that it's not going anywhere because we have the perspective that we're just here. Like I'm always here now, of course, but it's here and not there as opposed to here and there, I think. is maybe the best way that I can put it. It's still the perspective that I'm not equally, like equally that sink, that coffee cup, that tree out my window. And so I understand that the importance to a degree of maintaining that here. I don't know if it's importance because this is, I think, the excuse I'm like butting up against is being here and not there equally. Where where do you think that line comes in, or is that line between maintaining me being just here as opposed to me being equally that tree, not even some semblance of a tiny bit more here, but equally there? Is there a line, a balance with that, or is that just me making up another excuse like I have to maintain this, hindering my true potential?
This is a great question. Um, there's so many different ways that we could tackle it, but I'd like to go in the direction of the experience we have when we're not identifying, when we're not thinking about it, when we're not having this conversation. In other words, when you're just sitting in the field beside a tree and there's no concept of any of that, you're just there. That state of awareness that you're in at that point isn't conceiving some division. It's fully doing whatever it is it's doing. And the same is true for the awareness of the tree and the awareness of the grass and the awareness of the bugs and everything else. They're just doing what they're doing, regardless of our capacity to identify and take possession over that role. We are all just awareness in action. And this is why I'm always coming back to examples involving like the body, for example, right? That we are like cells within the body, but we take the perspective that the awareness that we are is only derived from the cell that we're experiencing rather than from the entire thing that's always aware in general, but on such a level that as soon as we think about it, it diminishes it. So another way to look at this would be to look at, say, the universe. Not the observable universe, but the entire universe, which could be infinite. Even scientists admit that it could be infinite. And we have seen barely a sliver of a sliver of a sliver of what could be infinite. And so it could just keep going on and on and on and on and on and on. But it's all one energy, it's all one thing. Now, if you were to look at the inside of your awareness, and when I say inside, everything that you could possibly imagine or feel within your awareness, and you just kept doing that, looking for more and 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 more, you would find that it is comparable to the universe in how many things are in there. And when I say in there, I mean as part of you, as part of your awareness. And so it's very difficult for us to recognize that while you and I are the same energy in the physical universe, which is almost limitless, you are and I are also the same awareness within this dream of subjectivity.
And so, so as you're explaining the universe and the infiniteness of just not even universe, just what is, like it immediately just brings me back to where I'm at here and now in this experience. Like when you start going like, oh, that's not the edge, that's not the edge, that's not the edge, it kind of just like all circles back into where you're at. And but that doesn't discount the fact that it's all you still. And so even speaking right now, like this part of it has been kind of, I don't know, tripped me out the last couple of days. Is just how I almost want there to be like it's kind of what I was saying with the feeling like I am everything else, but it's like a little bit more Andrew versus starting to get the feeling that it's not, because without being just Andrew, there's not that subtle, like, 100% here and like 90% that stuff. But that's still just a story, regardless of how I come up with it in my mind. It doesn't change the reality. Like I'm speaking very conceptually right now, and I have, the feeling of being that thing, because I think there's a tiny bit of me. It's like, why can't I control that or control something happening? But who's to say I'm even controlling Andrew right now? That's a massive assumption that I'm making, that I'm controlling Andrew right now. And then so my perspective of being me and the experience of me is quote unquote controlling something. And so then I make the assumption that beyond that, it should also, because there's the assumption that I'm controlling this, there is the assumption that if I was that tree, I would be able to control it. But without the assumption of just being able to control this, that I am in control, but then it's like, who's talking? Is it Andrew talking, or what is? And it's both and neither always. Like, it's never, because I'm not an idea. So this curiosity happening is I'm taking ownership for it, but it's like the ownership, I think, is what I'm getting to, is that's kind of it. Yeah, it's just there still seems like a little more ownership of the things that I do. And now even saying I versus Andrew, I'm just gonna pass back to
Oh, this is a great conversation. I love this shit. Um, so that's really interesting. There's so many different ways we could go with this. So it's interesting that you were saying, like, I should be able to control the tree since the tree is me. Well, that means the tree should also be able to control you. And how do you know that's not happening? That in fact, all of this isn't the interplay of various different parts of your will finding balance. In which case, it's not about establishing control. It's about recognizing what you're already doing and aligning with it. That's it. It's kind of like when you focus on a particular part of your body. It's not like your awareness has stopped running the rest of your body, right? It's just that now your focus is on a very specific part, which is changing or influencing how that part is interacting with the whole, because frankly, you are interfering with it simply by observation alone. And so I think that that's a big part of it. Like, you're still focused on Andrew instead of being observation alone. That's what we are. We are will. We're the observer, right? But how much is the influence of that observer deterred by the narrative that the observer chooses to play or attach to?
Yeah, there's this. And just to clarify, with the tree control was hypothetical, given my assumption that I have, my false assumption that I have control of this. Hypothetically, if I feel that way, then I feel like that expansion of quote unquote expansion of me goes to the tree. Then that's where, it's still a component of the illusion, through thinking that it's not already happening. Like that, as you pointed out, is the assumption that I'm settling upon, is that I'm not already doing everything always. Because who's thinking that they're doing everything? Like, you if you're maintaining the idea of yourself, you think you're the one doing it, but you're the one doing this. Also, it doesn't discount that it's also that happening, but you are making a massive assumption that it's not already being played out by you. And so then that's like, any of the recognitions of uncertainty, or the recognition of flow, that you can't escape it no matter what you do, that you're always in it, because you are it. You are, as deep as that goes, it. And we stumble and get caught up because we think it's not already what's going on. That's the assumption that I'm making from the perspective of thinking that I'm a little bit more this. That's again just a thought, just a conceptual idea. And it comes with the assumption that I'm not already doing everything all the time. So it's not like, before this, I was like, okay, well, then if that is the case, why can't I? Like, who's saying that you aren't already? It was me.
Yeah. And that's really the fun paradox about all of this, is that everything is already doing everything because you're everything. And so this is the experience of it. But if that's the case, then how do we influence it? And we are. We always are. We tend to forget that because you see, we're oversimplifying the question, right? We want to do things like move the tree, for example. And I know, I understand. I want to say this very clearly, that I have spent many, many, many hours staring at something on a coffee table and wondering, why can't I just slide that across the table? And I've spent time letting go of the idea that there was a table, letting go of the idea that there was the thing, or even in me to move the thing, tried to feel the thing, tried to recognize. I've gone through all of this stuff for sure, many, many, many times. And I want to say that somewhere in that removal of self, in the recognition that you are already doing it, there is a whole other basket of insight. There is a whole other experience happening there that is such a tricky thing to maintain, because it is the very act of not trying to maintain anything. It really is the experience of just letting go. And if you're letting go, the question becomes, why do you have to move anything? Why do you want to move anything? What is it that you are hoping to achieve? And if you're trying to prove something, that's the problem. You don't move your arms to prove that you can.
Yeah, because the already doing it recognition, as soon as any sort of desire to do something, so many assumptions, as you said, that there's a you doing something. I want to move that. You wouldn't say that about something that you recognize is you. It's a completely different perspective. So then coming at it from that point of view, that it's already happening, you're already doing everything. There's like no desire to move something in that. And it's probably where we're getting to, I think, is, and as you said, just all the other insights that start hitting when you recognize that it's already happening. And there's nothing you can do. There is no sound out of my mouth I could make that isn't in it, that isn't it. And yeah, we get caught in judging ourselves, making the assumption that it's not happening perfectly, making the assumption that we could do things better. We have this idea of what that means. But through recognizing that it's always happening, you're already doing it. Like the whole perspective of what doing is changes. It's like a deep, deep, deep relaxation in knowing that you can kind of like do no wrong. And I'm careful to say that. I'm not going to put that on Instagram or anything. Don't worry. I'm going to keep that to the podcast, but you can't do anything incorrectly. Like there's no way to. And so it really is our state of being, our mentality in the moment, because that does shift with that recognition that you can't do anything incorrectly. It's like you almost drop into the experience, like we've said before, kind of slide into the groove that gets unlocked through how relaxing it is to recognize that you can't escape it. Like you can't do anything that isn't already it, and you're already doing everything, just coming at it from the perspective that that you're not. So there could even be something, quote unquote, more that you could do, which is impossible. You're already doing all of it everywhere all the time, here and now. So you can't do more. So thinking you could do more or do something else is thinking that you're just you're back in the idea, back in the conceptual idea, but you're already doing all of it.
But not Andrew or Ray. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier about the biggest insight that I've been learning over the last 4 seasons regarding our community. See, the more I let go of Ray in the narrative, the more I'm letting go of Ray in the narrative. See, it's not Ray in the narrative that's actually letting go of anything. Ray is not doing anything. Ray is just embodying whatever movement of the whole is happening. But as that happens, oh, this is hard to explain. As Ray starts to dissipate, there is more connection to the rest of what I actually am as a result of Ray dissipating. And then those connections give opportunities for more of me to dissipate more of my narratives, whether it be Andrew, whether it be Amanda, whether it be Mark, whether it be anybody in the community. And in that dissipation of our narrative from person to person to person, I am being more of myself. I am being more of myself. And in that, I am connecting to more of my potential. So when we say I'm already doing it, are we talking from the perspective of all of those people who are dissipating their narrative? Are we talking from the recognition that you are them? Are you talking about that you that's already doing it? Do you perceive yourself that way? Do you experience yourself that way? And it's all going to be dependent on how much you still identify with Andrew, the narrative. Because that's the thing, like we're trying to see how it all connects, but it all connects. It's in us trying to see how that we lack the sensitivity to actually feel it. Because it's not about the how, it's about the fact that it's already happening. We're already doing it, we're already being one. But we have this narrative that dissipates how much of that we access at any given point. But that means the more of us that are accessing more of us all the time, the more potential starts to arise as a result. And this is what I was saying about the whole Jesus story. I don't think it was about Jesus. I think Jesus was just the person who ended up getting kind of blamed for the entire phenomenon of all of our awarenesses rising and individual people coming together as a result of them realizing that they're me, that they are each other. Because the more I gain awareness of myself, the more I gain awareness of myself in all of the incarnations of I that I manage to connect with. And that's what we are. We're like a changing idea within our collective mind.
Because there are no others that aren't also you. So there's no one else doing it. And I'm following that train there that you're throwing out, speaking from the perspective of the whole. Like everyone is you. This is your experience, speaking to Ray, speaking to anyone listening. Everyone you ever interact with is you, is just you, not like kind of you, not sort of you, not really you. It's you. Like literally you. And I think that's what I butt up against from time to time. And sometimes I sit in that for a while. And there's definitely certain interactions that are tougher to have than others in that point of view. But that even still is can be like that can be a conceptual idea too, because like you're me, what me am I saying? Like they're not Andrew, I'm not Andrew. And through that, so it's the dissipation of the ideas that allows you to just recognize what's already there, what's already happening. So it's not even going up to someone and saying like, you're me, you're me. Maybe maybe don't do that too often, but because it's not, that's still, and I know it's pointing to something beyond that, but it's still the maintenance of me as opposed to just like almost not needing the conceptual ideas and to try and maintain that through the interaction. Because again, it's like trying to move something. What are you trying to prove? What are you trying to show? If you actually recognize you're just talking to yourself, then who the fuck are you convincing? Right?
It's funny because this actually reminds me of reflexes. Like we are trying to be a better reflex of the collective I, right? So the more we think about ourselves, the less we are actually reacting to reality or as reality, the more we are distorting it and slowing down our reflex, slowing down what we would do otherwise, actually slowing down our natural reaction to what's happening based on what we think we should be doing, based on the concept of ownership and division and all that other fun stuff. And so when we get out of the way, we are actually just being more attuned to what's happening moment to moment to moment to moment. So it's again like being an exposed nerve, right? But in that state of being an exposed nerve, you are actually being fluid as what is, as the awareness of reality itself, because you're not in the way. And that's the state of uncertainty. That's that flow state that often we get really uncomfortable about because there's no sense of control, because there's no sense of I who could be in control. It's just the state of being that is continuing on from one moment to the other. And it's interesting because, as you know, I love Dragon Ball. And in Dragon Ball Super, this is actually the skill that the main character ends up being able to tap into by accident, is this ultra instinct, which is the ability to simply move free of thought with the moment that's happening right in front of you, where your entire body is basically moving in accordance to what's happening, not in accordance to your fear or your projection or how you think it should go. That's all gone. You are just quite literally the present moment in action. But if you think about the state of mind that you would be experiencing there, it would be quite intense if you were afraid.
Yeah, because it really is that feeling of just raw vulnerability and exposed nerve type feeling. Because you can't even try to do that, right? You can't even try to be in that state. I'm going to try and not have thoughts about the situation. Like you're caught in it every single time. It just has to be through, not through anything, even. It's not through anything. As soon as you think it's through something, it's not it. You can, and that's a bitch of fucking communicating this stuff is that, you say words and pointers or whatever. Like I was going to say, recognizing the reality of uncertainty, just how you don't know anything. But that isn't what gets you there, because someone can just look at that and be like, oh, so I just have to do that. And it's pointing to something that you can't even say necessarily what it is. It's just what's left. It's like we're all settling upon things on varying degrees. And it really is just what's left when you're not settling. So it can't be something that you settle upon in order to try and do. It's just that's the work, is continuing to recognize just how much you settle upon, even deep, so much deeper than the idea that you know what's going to happen next. It's like there's a lot of assumptions, even way, 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 way deeper than that, and so many just that are here and now that I'm continuing to make all the time, and so it's working through those, and it's almost as if this ultra instinct type state is what's left when there aren't all of these conceptual assumptions about you versus anything else, because there is no you versus or you as opposed to. In that, every single time you're maintaining an idea, and that's not it. And there's a plethora of assumptions that come with just that idea, just even using the words you and me. There's so many layers to that we maintain, and about being what we think we are, which we never are. So it's just not needing to maintain those ideas. But in that, as you said, if you're if you don't have that faith in yourself, like that is very, very, very raw, a very raw experience to have that degree of a cessation of certainty. Because like we think it changes so much, but it really doesn't. It's our maintenance of the ideas that keeps us in thinking that it changes anything whatsoever. Like, yeah, you're already doing it. It's just you don't have to maintain those conceptual ideas quite so rigidly.
Exactly. But that's the whole point, is that it's not about just diving into uncertainty, because that's intense. That's the reason that we have such traumatic experiences on high doses of psychedelics, or even just in moments of like near death experiences, stuff like that. Like that can be quite traumatic to suddenly come close to the present and recognize the nature of uncertainty and how raw and vulnerable that state actually can be. And so the real trick is to just peel away layer by layer all of the stuff that tends to keep you out of that state, so that way you're not just deep diving into uncertainty, which again a lot of people rely on psychedelics for. They will go, oh, these are going to help me become more aware. It's like, well, they can, if you're willing to continue questioning in between, because otherwise you're just kind of dipping your toe in and then going back into the world of thinking that you know what's going on and limiting yourself accordingly. And so it really is just one layer at a time, getting used to that state of vulnerability. So recently, Andrew, you were discussing going for a walk, and in that walk, finding that you weren't thinking about things. You weren't actually going through a bunch of insights. You were just going for a walk. And I would say that that is the result of the work. Is it's not some, oh, I'm free, but slowly and surely your attachment to your thoughts starts to fade away. And so it's like they just quiet down to a whisper. And eventually you don't hear them at all. And in that state, you are being a better reflex for the whole. That's it. That's all it is. It's really just being at peace, not thinking about your shit and existing in the world, but not in a way that you are trying to do. Not in a way where you're like, okay, I'm going to stop thinking about myself. I need to meditate. I need to breathe. I need all of that is making the problem worse. It really is just picking away layer by layer by layer at the need to be or do anything until finally you are just left with what is, but in an organic way that doesn't require any additional work, that doesn't require anything other than just time and the willingness to surrender. That's it, but it's layer by layer. So you don't have to have some deep dive psychedelic experience just to get closer to reality. You are, in fact, closer to reality each and every moment by virtue of you just not getting in the way moment by moment by moment. And so that's why you will find it easier to talk to people. You will find it easier to connect with people. You will find it easier to empathize with people. And none of that is the result of more thought. None of that is the result of all of this processing in your brain, because that stuff is starting to fade away. So where is it coming from? It's coming from the intelligence that you are. It's coming from the connection that's already there that you're no longer interfering with simply because you're not taking ownership. You're not taking the idea that you can take ownership so seriously. And so you're not dividing yourself from the whole. You are actually embodying more of our intelligence, more of your intelligence, more of intelligence itself. And again, as you start to do that, you start to do that, which means I start to do that. And everybody else starts to do that to various different capacities. And we can fight it if we want to, but how many of us are going to continue to fight it if you really are committed to growing?
Funny, as you were talking, I would have a thought come up and you would like answer it or say it like right away. It happened like 3 times. I was like, oh, I'm curious about it. Oh, there he goes. Oh, curious about that. Oh, there he goes. Oh, and it was like kind of seamless right there. So that's always funny. But it does really come down to what's in the way. Like what's in the way of that recognition, as you said, like what is telling you that you're not already doing all that stuff, and the thoughts that are in the way, like our thoughts really are the thoughts we mull through. The noisy mind is all about me. pretty much to some degree, to some way, shape, or form involved in me. And then there is a difference I've felt when, like, the thoughts I'm having, and I always laugh when this happens. I notice that the thoughts I'm having are just about my environment. Like, it'll be like, oh, that's a really pretty tree. And that's like the only thing that I hear. And then I start laughing because, like, there's still some thoughts, but there's nothing even close to who the fuck would ever resist a thought that says, that's a really pretty tree. That's a beautiful flower. Oh, that dog looks cute. Those aren't the thoughts that we resist. The thoughts we resist are the ones all about us and me. And so it's recognizing that, yeah, it is a tool. It's just a tool. And there is a use case to it. And when you're, when it isn't so involved in you maintaining the story, defending the story, concern for the story, like, you can actually start using your mind. Like, I'm pretty sure almost no one is using their mind, like being used by their mind, but they aren't using it. You think you're using it from time to time, and, like, you're almost never. Like the phrase beautiful servant, terrible master, the thing, like, that's very much the case, but it is until, and the reason it can be a master is because you have this idea of you that you believe to be the truth of what you are. And as soon as you recognize that's not the case, it becomes a servant. It becomes a sort of tool that you can utilize. But even just recognizing, as you were saying, the cessation of that thought, going on a walk and just not having so many concerns anymore, you're finally experiencing reality for what it is. And we think, oh, I'm not doing anything. Like, you are, though. That all of those thoughts were getting in the way of you having any semblance of a experience here and now. And there's so many impacts of that that we couldn't even get to all of them today if we wanted to. But the recognition of one mind being, as your mind changes, your mind changes. Your perception of your individual mind is the entire mind changing. And so there's nothing you have to do. It's just, like, even that, just nothing you have to do because you're already doing all of it. You can't do anything. Like, you can't have this idea of doing something even. I mean, you can maintain that for sure, but it doesn't change the fact of what's actually happening, which is doing everything. And so it's just how well you can recognize that. But even that is still, not a recognition that's even possible to genuinely have. Just what you are.
It's so funny because what we're saying is that you don't have to do anything to be what is in motion. And yet, look how much work we feel like we've done to have this conversation, to even get here to our 21st episode of season 4, in terms of peeling away insights and digging away at questions and letting go of assumptions and all that stuff. And it's funny because we'll always perceive it as we are doing the work, because that's the experience that we're having. Yet the division in that statement does not exist. We are all just part of the whole in motion. We are always on the ball, as it were, because we have to be. There is no division. It's just that we make a narrative that somehow we're doing it rather than it's being done through us, as us, right? We tend to forget that. Like, it's so easy to go, oh, source consciousness has a plan and we're all a part of it. And that is the danger of this conversation. That is the danger of what we're saying right now, that in surrendering, you're embodying the intelligence of the whole, because immediately our brain creates a fucking narrative that intelligence obviously is going towards the best possible destination because it's limitless intelligence. It's got to have the best idea in mind. No, none of that's the case. It's just intelligence, you see. And for an intelligence that's eternal, there is no consequence that it's really afraid of. So it's really just a tool that's turning itself, and we're that tool turning ourselves. And so our collective direction is this weird hodgepodge of all of our collective individual wills and all of our collective individual recognitions of how much of the whole we are. And based on that, we are manifesting reality, quote unquote, which really just means that we're creating it based on what we think of ourselves as we go.
It really is enticing to try and maintain that idea of being a fragment of source, being a part of it. And as you just said, even that you're a tool for source, but you are source. Like you're it. Like there is no distinction, no division whatsoever. There's no not getting away with anything. You're it. Like you are that source. If you like to think, oh, I'm just a tool, and thinking that we're just the tool for source, and oh, just let go and source has got me. You're it. Like it's all you. All the perspectives, all of the interactions, all of the experiences, they're all you. But that's, once you get more and more into that, that's the uncomfortable bit that definitely lots of things send people running, but that one definitely can get them, because you're also maintaining, if you're running, you're still maintaining ideas and concepts and an idea of yourself and how you fit into everything and what that means about you, recognizing that you're everything, that you are source, that, yeah, as much as you can let go, it's still you doing it, just not your idea of what's being done and all of your preferences that you need to, maintain. It's like those preferences are still your preferences, but you're not the you that you think. And so it's yeah, I guess it's just coming back to that recognition that it's never ever what you think. And so you see the futility in trying to make sense of it, because it's taking you away from being it, but also not away, because there's nowhere to get.
And your perspective of how much you are starts to change over time, because you start to question how attached you are to your perspective of what, say, communication is. For example, like you and I are having this conversation, we're using concepts and ideas and language. And so human beings would tend to imagine that this is communication. When dogs bark at each other, or when dogs do any kind of body language in relation to one another, do you think that they're passing on information to one another? It may not be concepts like, hey, it's Tuesday at 3 o'clock, but they're passing on how they feel, whether or not they feel secure, whether it's their territory, whether they're friendly, that kind of thing. And so there's information that's being transferred between two dogs by virtue of something that you and I would more than likely not call communication. But to them, it's communication. So then you can go, okay, so that's what communication is two sentient beings interacting with one another through body language. But then you take plants, for example, and plants communicate through subaudible clicking noises beneath the ground in their root systems. You can hear it. You can actually measure this with a microphone. It's crazy. You can go and look this up. So is that communication? Well, obviously it's between two beings, but are plants sentient? And if they are sentient, what could they be communicating? Well, obviously things that are relevant to plants based on their experience of the soil and the sun and everything else, right? And so that's communication too. So if all of those things are communication, then that means that communication is not just language. So if it's not just language, then it probably isn't just sound, because then we have body language, right? And so everything is communication with everything else. It's just that we get so caught up in thinking that things are separate that we actually start to think of communication as something that's not constant. But everything is always influencing everything else. And it may not be the communication of ideas, but it's the communication of information. It's the communication of considerations. And that is the whole in motion. It's always communicating with itself, kind of like a thought traveling through your brain.
And we have the whole idea, as you just laid out, of what communication is, so we don't see the depth of what's happening. Like we're always communicating with ourselves. And then, you have the thought through this that, oh, well, does that mean that I can read someone else's mind and they can read my mind? It's like, yes and no, kind of. Yeah, maybe. definitely. And where's the concern come from as to, well, I don't want them to reading my mind. This is my mind. These are my thoughts. This is my privacy. Like, yeah, but through recognizing that you're not what you think, it isn't so much. And that shame and fear and concern is stemming from your very long reinforced idea of yourself. That's where the concern always comes from for that. Through letting go of that, like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. That deeper communication. And I'm not even saying, because we conceptualize everything through our thoughts into like, words and ideas and whatnot, but there could be 100 layers of communication happening between everything that you've ever interacted with, be it a tree or a piece of food or another person that you have no conceptual understanding of or even ability to see. And again, that's just me making an assumption that that isn't a potential possibility, which it very well could be. Like, how much is happening, quote unquote, under the surface, under what we're able to perceive. There's probably layers upon layers upon layers upon layers, and we're just, barely seeing one or two, just kind of scratching the surface of those. And there's so much depth to that communication that's always happening. Inevitably, it's one mind. There is no division. So it's happening in so many ways that we couldn't possibly fathom in our current mentality. But who's to say that we can't start to explore that as well?
Well, it's interesting actually because some people do. So there's this great trick that some magicians can do. I know I saw Chris Angel do it on his show. If anybody wants to go and look this up, it's really neat. I think you might find it under car dealership or something like that. But basically, they had someone take the keys for a car and hide it in one of the cars in this dealership. And the magician, in this case, Chris Angel, is blindfolded. And so you would think the trick would be that he just holds the person who hid the keys' hand, and that person would basically lead them to the keys just through trying to avoid them. So basically, he's going to take this person for a walk around this car dealership, and just by feeling their body language, find out where these keys are. Okay? Now, make it even harder. He's not even holding their hand. He actually just gives them one end of a handkerchief and he holds the other end. So just like you were saying quite some time ago about walking your dog and the tension in the leash, imagine being blindfolded and trying to read your dog's avoidance of where it hit a bone just through the tension or the release, and trying to gauge through intuition and sensitivity whether that person is trying to mislead you or not. How desperate are they to go this way? How much are they trying to avoid giving you tension as you go that way? And sure enough, I think it was like an hour and a half later, he found the keys. He found the keys. He found the car where the keys were. And it was just through reading that person's body language when that person was trying to fool them.
And so that the person leading, like, as much as we can convince ourselves that we can escape that sort of like the epiphenomenalism type things, like we can escape what's inevitably going to happen. Like we can't truly hide that recognition. We can't truly lie to ourselves without knowing kind of what we're doing with that. And so having that sensitivity and that ability to just be so attentive to that experience, to be so quiet in yourself and, concern of what's happening, what it means about you. Because even in that situation, Chris Angel, like if it's sort of like being broadcast or filmed or something, there could be a buildup of a certain pressure. Like I need to find this, and that would just hinder his ability to do so by a ton, especially when you realize how sensitive and attentive you have to be to the experience that you're having. There can't be any concern for how it's going to go, where it's going to lead. And that allows you to tap into something that could be perceived as supernatural almost. We like to think of, superpowers as certain things, but maybe it's just deepening into our experience, our ability to just be fully attentive to where we're at. So focused and so honed in that we're digging into aspects of our reality that we couldn't even fathom when we had a lot in the way, when we weren't paying so close of attention, when we weren't being as sensitive to the experience and what's really going on. Not our idea of what's going on, not our judgment of what's going on, but like being able to look at it for what's actually happening without needing to narrate it and just being willing to sit in it. Like how deep does that go? How connected can we recognize that we are when we stop telling ourselves a story that, you know, I'm this and therefore I couldn't possibly be that, and therefore all these ideas of what could be possible couldn't possibly be possible because I'm just me. But that will always bring you out of it because that's when the concern begins to arise even more heavily. So without that, I don't know, makes me wonder. Makes me wonder how deep that goes.
Well, and it's interesting because we always think of it in terms of something like flow state, which we know always improves our performance in almost everything that we're doing. But what we're saying is that it's not just about individual flow state, but rather like a contagion of flow state traveling within our collective. So it's not just you experiencing flow state, particularly if flow state is becoming an increasing part of your life, but it's all the other people that you're impacting who are also experiencing more flow state. And thus the entire thing is experiencing more flow state. And so it's not just about having faith, or rather just being present. It's also about the fact that that is happening on a more collective level, which means we're all interacting with each other in an entirely different way. And so it's not just about having faith in yourself, the individual, but also having faith in yourself, the whole, because there is no division. And that's why, again, the community just continues to blow my mind all the time, because to me, nothing's changed. It's still just me. And there are so many more me's recognizing that I'm them, because it's not just that you're all me, it's that I'm you.
And so that flow state isn't an individual experience. None of our experiences are individual. We're just over here trying to do them and take ownership for them and thinking that we're the ones making it happen, which we are, but we're not. Yes and no. Always. We're always impacting and being impacted, and it's not happening how we think it's happening. It's our ideas. It's the settling upon things happening in a certain way that's getting in the way. It's not about finding out. It's recognizing what you're settling upon, recognizing how much ownership you're taking for any experience that you have. Because through that, what's left is what is. It's a collective recognition that that flow state expands. It's not just you, but it also is. It just depends on how you perceive you. And through that, like it's always having impact. And I think the more you recognize how much it's always happening, the impact doesn't increase, but maybe intensifies to a degree. And so it really does make me wonder how much of that recognition that you're already doing it can have impact on yourself from whatever perspective yourself that you take.
It's such a fun paradox to recognize that the best thing that you can do for the whole is just be, and recognize that you're the whole, because that changes everything that you do. It changes the entire scope of what you experience. It changes everything. And it's the last thing that you would expect. It's totally counterintuitive to everything that the ego wants to do and the ego thinks it should do. And the ego is hardwired basically to consider, because it's dualistic. And so, yeah, it's really encouraging. And I don't know where this is all going, but I do know that it's getting trippy. I do know that it is absolutely surreal to me to have known this for as long as I have, and to see that it continues to expand, and that having more people involved with this has not taken away from the point. It's just revealed more and more of what we are. And so I want you, dear listener, to take this in. Everyone that you interact with is an expression of your potential. The more of your potential you allow yourself to embody, the more you will see in everyone else because you'll recognize they're you.
Well, I am very happy with this season 4 finale episode. This has been a fun, almost felt like a revisiting of some early things that we talked about from a completely new, but also not new point of view. Circle around the same recognition, just from different ways, different perspectives. And we both, and anyone listening, has changed significantly since that first episode. First few episodes were filmed when we were still exploring this recognition, more or less. Same recognition. And we haven't even, I don't know, starting to feel to me like we still haven't even scratched the surface of what any of this means, or where it's going, or what, quite frankly, just what's possible. So I appreciate everyone for sticking it out with us through 4 full seasons of Dualistic Unity. It's been quite the ride, and it couldn't have happened without you.
Absolutely. I think it's interesting because you were saying that we're just scratching the surface, but it's what we mean by we're that continues to change. Because as we come together, as our listener continues to commit to their own path, that is us going deeper and deeper and deeper, one person at a time, despite the fact that it's all one person, like a changing habit or a changing mind in general. So this has been great. A lot of fun. There's lots to come in season 5 and beyond. Do keep in touch with us on Patreon if you haven't already joined us, because we are having more retreats, more events. We have a lot in the works. We're working on a book, as Andrew said, and there's a ton of other stuff that we want to get back into, like the Tao. We have a business plan that we're currently working on. We have lofty ambitions because, frankly, there's no ceiling, because as long as we have you, we can do anything.
So we appreciate you sticking it out with us, and love you very much, and look forward to chatting with you on Patreon very soon.
Bye, everyone.